Welcome back to the Birdhouse Dynasty Show and our 2026 rookie rankings and tiers show tonight prior to week 14 of the NFL season. We're getting hyped here. It's crunch time. And it's time to make some deals. That's right. Some of you are now out of it and you're looking forward to the 2026 season already. So, this video is made to just give you sort of an idea of who you're going to be looking at it come next April and May when the rookies will get drafted into the NFL and finally have NFL teams, you know, this is the part of the NFL season. For the dynasty season, there's a whole year's calendar to look at. And right now we're in point scoring season. Draft picks are at a lower value right now than they will be immediately following the NFL season. Then they'll begin to rise as we get toward to the combine. They'll peak then in April and May as we're doing our rookie drafts. So right now you still can get in on some rookie picks at a cheaper value than they will be in just a couple of weeks, and then they'll continue to rise for you. So now I want to give you an idea, like, what are you looking at if you're getting a late first, a playoff first? What kind of players are going to be there, right? So I've watched a lot of college football. I haven't done my set of 2026 rookie rankings yet. It's going to be out on the site now. I learned my lesson from last year when I started doing the rookie rankings a little too early. Last year, I started doing them at the end of September, and it was still early in the college football season, and Cam Ward was just an honorable mention in my top 25 rookie rankings. Carson Beck was in my top 5. He's now the quarterback still in college at Miami. He transferred from Georgia after a disappointing season, we'll just say. Stayed in school. Cam Ward came out of nowhere. He was the quarterback in Miami and blew up, and he ended up being the number 1 overall pick. Now, he isn't the best rookie quarterback. That honor is reserved for Jackson Dart right now, who many were higher on than Cam Ward, and I was excited for Jackson Dart. I definitely had him ahead of Shedeur Sanders, and I didn't blame anybody if they wanted to trade back, which I did. Traded back from Cam Ward to pick up Jackson Dart. I saw that there was potential. Now, I'm not saying I expected this kind of success so far from Jackson Dart, but I'm happy to see it. Now, the problem with this year's class is there were like 5 or 6 quarterbacks that were projected as possible first round picks, but no definite first round picks. So if I had started doing my rankings back in September, I would have had 5 or 6 quarterbacks where I could have ranked anywhere from 1 to 25. Okay, so you see where trying to establish some sort of rankings really would have just been based off of a couple of weeks. Some teams wouldn't have even played any conference games yet. It just was way too early in my mind, and based off of what happened last season, I just wanted to wait. Wait until now, till right now is basically all we've got left is the conference championship games and then the college football playoff. And so you're going to get to see some of these guys in the college football playoff. A lot of these guys won't be playing in the college football playoff, so you'll be stuck watching a lot of highlight reels, right? I would definitely not watch too many highlight reels, though, because literally all these guys' highlight reels are going to make them look good, right? So how do we decipher from them? Who do you go to and whatever? I use a free site, NFL Draft Buzz. It gives a rating similar to like Pro Football Focus on these players, and so I go by that. I use my own, I watch games, okay, so I see like all of the plays in a particular game. I see how the players on field persona is, what is his attitude if a bad play happens, right? Some of these guys you don't want, like, I remember, who was it? Denzel Mims, I believe. No, it was Laquan Treadwell. Laquan Treadwell went to the Minnesota Vikings in the first round, and he just had a bad attitude on the field, and I avoided him. And I'm glad I did, but that's something like, do these wide receivers actually block for their teammates, right? I'm not talking draft day where you have to know who went to their birthday party, okay? We don't have to get that deep, but if you want to, by all means, go ahead. That's what I'm trying to learn. I just want to see some of these guys' attitudes. I want some dogs out there, Cam Scadaboo comes to mind with that from last year. But there's numbers that back that up, Ashton Genty had the most missed tackles forced last year, right? But guess who was second? It was Cam Scadaboo that was second. And if we've learned anything from Bucky Irving's success, it's that broken tackles and missed tackles forced, whether they're the same stat or not, they're not, okay? But both of those stats can really show you who can succeed at the next level. So those are just a couple of metrics that you want to look at that actually matter, not just yardage totals, okay? Because there's a dude from Emmett Johnson, I'll give you the example, from a running back from Nebraska. He just ran for 217 yards against Iowa. His team lost 40-16. Okay, I'm not going to just scoot him way up the board here yet until I actually see. We don't know. He's a junior. We don't know if he's coming out or going back or transferring to another school yet. It's such a mess now in college football. Trying to break this down and decipher it, I just want to give you a hand in trying to do so. But we're going to get things started off so I don't keep rambling on. I want to keep this video shorter than an hour, okay? It's not going to be that long. I'm going to rattle through these, and I'm going to show you my post that I'm going to do on my Patreon site to show you my top 25 rookies for the 2026 rookie class. And we're going to start things off with, we're going to start it off with the 101, and that is pretty much I don't want to say foregone conclusion yet, but it's kind of a foregone conclusion. And that is Jeremiah Love, running back from Notre Dame. And let me get this up a little better. Let me show you a different layout here. There we go. That's better. Get over here. Okay. And so Jeremiah Love, running back out of Notre Dame, he is the favorite for the Doak Walker Award over Hardy from Missouri and the dude from, who was it, Lacey from Ole Miss. And right now, though, Jeremiah Love's the favorite to win it. Those guys have good yardage totals, and I think one of them's even ahead of them in rushing yards, but then Jeremiah Love's a better receiver. So to give you an idea, when I watch Jeremiah Love, he's got good breakaway speed. He breaks tackles with the best of them. He's probably the top broken tackles guy in college football. And when I watch him, I'm reminded sort of, I want to say Amarian Hampton from last year. He reminds me a lot of him. Some guys compare him to Travis Etienne. The good version of Travis Etienne, not the injured version of Travis Etienne. So he's got some wheels. He can catch the ball. He's got a nose for the end zone. And you'll be able to see him in the college football playoff because Notre Dame is good enough, and he's going to be in there. And so definitely watch Jeremiah Love when his team's playing in the college football playoff, because this guy is the projected. He's projected in the NFL draft as a first rounder. So just knowing that, any running backs that are going in the first round of the NFL drafts right now are studs, okay? Their hit rate is very good. Look at Bijan. Look at Jahmyr Gibbs, all right? Even look at Ashton Genty this year. If you go behind the mask and see how bad this Raiders offensive line is, and all of the missed tackles that Ashton Genty is having to force just to get to past the line of scrimmage, it's insane. if there's anything the Raiders need to do is they need to draft like 3 offensive linemen this upcoming draft, or draft 2 and sign 2. I don't know what they got to do, but they definitely need to address the offensive line, and that would be fantastic for Ashton Genty. I still believe in the talent there for Ashton Genty. Now, so that's it. We've got my Patreon here, and so I'm gonna show you that. Let's bring this out here. There we go. All right. So right up top on the board, we've got Jeremiah Love. Okay. Then we have a tier break, because as of right now, at least, it's Jeremiah Love and then it's everybody else. So I'm going to show you the next range of players, and it's going to take me a second here. Let me get to, here we go. I gotta scoot around Draft Buzz, their board here, so just give me a second. I'm getting familiar with it myself. I haven't played around with it in months on a laptop, so give me a second. Okay. There we go. All right. Next up, we've got a tier of 3 wide receivers. Now, Chris Brazzell, I do not have in that tier, but Jordan Tyson, Mekhi Lemon, and Carnell Tate are my next 3 wide receivers, and they are going into tier 2 on my rankings. Jordan Tyson at the top of this list. He has been comped to such pros anywhere from Devontae Adams to JSN to Amon-Ra St. Brown, all the way to George Pickens for his ability to go up and get the ball. Now, he's a better route runner than George Pickens was considered when he was coming out of school. Pickens developed that. Now in the NFL, you can see it for the Cowboys, how he's become a better asset. But when George Pickens was coming out, you have to realize, like, he barely played his sophomore and junior seasons, and so really all the film that everybody had on Pickens was from his freshman year, and he balled out his freshman year even. Now, when you go to JSN was doing it his freshman year. Amon-Ra St. Brown, not as much. He had a loaded wide receiver room there, but the point being here, Jordan Tyson can do it all. He is an elite separator, and that's the key. That's where Devontae Adams comes up. That's where JSN comes up, and that's the key for me as well. That is probably the top metric. I used to be that guy who looked at somebody like DK Metcalf and was like, that is the dude I want, right? I know he's going to be a stud in the NFL for a while. Now, DK, as you can see, I mean, I still love the guy, and he's a hard-nosed player. He can be a knucklehead sometimes and do stupid stuff on the field, but I don't think he's as dumb as George Pickens, all right? Like, when it comes to off-the-field matters, all right? And so that's where Pickens and DK differ now. That's the tough part about Dynasty, is we have to navigate between the two. This offseason, you probably could have flipped DK for Pickens straight up, right? And if you would have gone with character off the field, you would be getting a big L at this point. Because George Pickens is by far the biggest value, like, that you could have gotten this offseason compared to what he's producing at. I know JSN is number 1, and he was going around wide receiver, 10? and he's wide receiver 1. But Pickens was going in rounds 6, 7, 8, maybe even in dynasty startups. And for him to be performing at a top 5 level is just bonkers. And that's awesome. Just an awesome value for your roster. Pretty much everybody in all of my leagues who has George Pickens, whether dynasty or redraft, is contending. Like, I don't see a single team that has George Pickens that isn't contending, and that's the kind of bump you get from getting somebody that low and producing at a high rate. And Jordan Tyson is the exact type of receiver who can come into the NFL and produce right away because of being an elite separator. Now, he's got all the tools. Let me bring him up here, get a more distinct profile on Jordan Tyson. Here we go. So 6'2", 200, very solid size for a wide receiver. Basically the kind of receiver that literally every single team in the NFL could draft and find a spot for on their team immediately. Like, you draft running back and there's not necessarily guaranteed production right away, a la Caleb Johnson this year, right? RJ Harvey, he goes in and he's splitting time with J.K. Dobbins all season. Meanwhile, Genty and Omarion Hampton, basically the bell cows. Now, Hampton's been banged up, so obviously that's not ideal for the Hampton owners. But the point being that you don't know as much with running backs, even higher drafted running backs, if they're going to play right away. If you're drafted in the first round as a wide receiver, like, your expectations are high. Look at Matthew Golden in Green Bay. Like, he's gotten to play right away and his expectations have been high. He's probably not quite met those expectations. But you can see the talent level is there, right? He's more talented than pretty much everybody there. Christian Watson and him are fairly close talent-wise, right? But now that Christian Watson's back and he's got experience and he knows the offense, like, that's why Watson is playing more. But Golden definitely has the opportunity going into next year and the following years after that to eventually become the number 1 in Green Bay. Jordan Tyson's the kind of dude who walks into the room and he's probably the team's best wide receiver. There's only a handful of teams that Jordan Tyson can walk into and not be the best wide receiver talent-wise in the room, in the building, okay? So Jordan Tyson, legit top 4 pick. He's probably going in the top 15 of the NFL draft, all right? So lots of teams could use him. Raiders come to mind off the top of my head. Washington possibly. I'm just thinking teams that are going to be picking in the top 15 right now, but who knows who it'll be. Somebody could trade up for him. I don't know. That's not worth really discussing right now. The fact is, to me, he's the top wide receiver in the NFL draft, and it's close. It's not like he's the only one, because Makai Lemon is my next wide receiver that I like slightly over Carnell Tate. I don't know. It could be landing spot dependent as far as who I will take come May, if I have like the 103 pick and these guys are still ranked in similar tiers to what we're going over right now. But Makai Lemon is a type of receiver. Think Zay Flowers up to Malik Neighbors potential. Okay, that's the range of outcomes that you could get from Makai Lemon. He's a dog. He has decent 40 time, only 4.48, but 5'11", 195, junior. Now, they had a lot of receivers. There was somebody, Deuce Robinson, who transferred out of USC this year, partially because the room was so crowded. USC's kind of struggled this year. They could have been doing better. They're not going to make the playoff, so you're not going to be able to see Makai Lemon in the playoff, but I mean, if you just watch a highlight reel of this guy, he's a stud. If you watch an actual game of him, you can see how he's uh, kind of a man amongst boys, I would say. You know, you remember Steve Smith from the Carolina Panthers? I couldn't stand him as a Bucks fan, but that's because he was on the other team. Steve Smith's the kind of dude that if he's on your team, you love having him, and that's the kind of guy that Makai Lemon is. He's going to really frustrate you if you're stuck with him in your team's division in the NFL. This guy will go out and get everything, and yeah, he's a dog. All right. Next up, then, Carnell Tate from the Ohio State University, and let me go find him here. I gotta get back to the wide receiver. They don't make it easy to go around. Okay, this is how I'm gonna do it. There we go. So Carnell Tate, 6'3", 195. Out of the Ohio State University. Now, this guy, I'm trying to think who I really comp him to. I wonder if they say somebody. This guy really does remind me of George Pickens. Maybe more Brian Thomas. I don't know. Brian Thomas is the good comp. Like, the problem with Carnell Tate, I don't know that it's the problem. The thing with him is that he's been with such good talent around him. He's got Jeremiah Smith, who would be the number one pick probably in this year's draft if he came out. He's only a sophomore and best wide receiver prospect probably since Jamar Chase. Carnell Tate, on the other hand, is a great number 2. Number 1, I'm not so sure about. So I'm thinking like T. Higgins, okay? That might be the perfect idea for Carnell Tate, but he's going to play right away. He's got that Ohio State label. Now, the reason that Ohio State's so good, part of it is their system is wide receiver friendly, okay? It allows the most talented players to succeed, all right? They give them a lot of freedom. And then they also have Brian Hartline as their wide receivers coach. And if anybody remembers Brian Hartline, he was a wide receiver for the Miami Dolphins. Short white guy, just played hard, right? So he knows all the little ins and outs. He was a Wes Welker type. He was Wes Welker light, okay? That's who Brian Hartline was. And he teaches all of these dudes those little intangibles. And that's why all these Ohio State wide receivers come in, and not only are they talented, but they all have that mentality that they have a chip on their shoulder, like they've got something to prove, right? And I know that Marvin Harrison hasn't lived up quite to his billing there, but it's still there. Like, it could happen. And if you watched the game last week against Tampa, like with Jacoby Brissett at the helm, the opening drive, Brissett hit Marvin Harrison with 3 catches, all right? Marv was looking like the guy that we all hoped he could be. Now, Marv hurt his heel, and I don't even know if he's going to play next week, so there goes that, right? But if Brissett gets to start next year or they bring in a gunslinger, I'm excited for Marv next year. And Carnell Tate, I'm super excited for as well. I want a top 4 pick in this NFL draft because I love these 3 wide receivers, and you can't go wrong with Carnell Tate either. And this could be a situation where it's kind of like Emeka Egbuka this year, right? Where you had a couple other dudes ahead of him at wide receiver, but then he ended up being the best because of his situation, because of the quarterback that's throwing to him. We don't know where these guys are going. So again, I don't want to read too much into it, but these top 4 guys, Jeremiah Love, Jordan Tyson, Makai Lemon, and Carnell Tate, these 4 guys, these are the guys everybody's going to want to go after for sure. So let me bring up my trusty Patreon. Here we go. And we're going to do tier 2. If I can type it in. There we go. All right. There we go. Jordan Tyson. Oh. And Makai Lemon. Now you'll be able to catch all of these rankings on my Patreon. Just $3 a month. Go ahead and get in on it. You get all the extra access. Especially the key is the chat. The chat is where it happens. That's where you see all the trades that we use on my Dynasty trade show. And that is where you get the most help from the other members as well as myself. If you have a trade offer, that's where you can go right away and see what those guys think. I mean, I don't know anybody that just decides on trades on their own. I get asked all day long about trades, and that's part of the fun of Dynasty Fantasy Football, right? Okay. Now, tier 3, and this is where I'm going to throw in some of the quarterbacks, all right? So, let's get up the quarterbacks here. Okay, here we go. All right, so here we have the top 3 quarterbacks of the 2026 NFL Draft. These guys are the likely first round quarterbacks. Sorry, there's so many ads on here. I can't get rid of them all. Okay, so we've got Ty Simpson out of Alabama, Dante Moore out of Oregon, and Fernando Mendoza out of the University of Indiana, the number 2 ranked team in the nation. Yes, your Indiana Hoosiers are number 2 in the nation. You'll get to see them in the college football playoff. You'll get to see Dante Moore in the college football playoff and Ty Simpson all in the college football playoff. Ty Simpson will be playing in the SEC championship coming up against Georgia. Check it out. Yes, Fernando Mendoza against Ohio State. Big Ten championship. Check it out. Huge game there. So as of right now, if I was taking one of these guys, it would be Dante Moore. Dante Moore, the trick here is we don't know yet if he's going to come out. Dante Moore started at UCLA. He was an absolute stud out of the state of Michigan, won 2 state championships, went to UCLA. UCLA was a dumpster fire. Chip Kelly was there, didn't know what he was doing, ran Dante Moore into the ground. He got benched during his freshman year. He decided he wanted out and transferred to Oregon, who was his other main recruiter. So he went to Oregon last year and sat behind Dylan Gabriel for a redshirt season, and that really turned things around for him. Dante Moore now understands the game. He throws at an extremely well pace. He can throw the deep ball. He is the best thrower of the football in this 2026 class if he comes out. He reminds me a lot of Jordan Love. That's who I would comp him to if I had any. He's got a pretty nice, good touch on the deep ball. He can fire it. If there's anything he does need to work on, it would be the short passing game, but that is something that as a, 21-year-old? He's still only 20. He'll be 21. But again, he had a redshirt season, so he's technically a redshirt sophomore. So that means that he could easily go back to the Oregon Ducks next season. So that's something we absolutely will monitor for sure. The thing is, though, that Dante Moore being a likely top 5 pick, that's something that his agent's going to keep pounding into his head. And if he's the top pick, that's something you don't want to really pass on. Okay, injuries can happen, coaching changes happen, who knows, blah, blah, blah. You don't want to miss out on that. Now, could he use another year of seasoning? Absolutely. But does he want to go up against Arch Manning in the 2027 draft? Probably not. So that's why Dante Moore probably will come out this year. Next up, I would take Fernando Mendoza. Mendoza is has a little more arm strength than Ty Simpson. Ty Simpson to me is, think Daniel Jones. Yes. Fernando Mendoza has a little more of a live arm, and I'd say he's, you could hope him to be Justin Herbert, probably. Yeah, because he can scramble a little. That's where my comps would be: Jordan Love, Justin Herbert, and Daniel Jones. That'd be the kind of mix that you're looking at here with the top quarterbacks. And I'm going to throw them all into this next tier because we've got a long way to go. We don't know which one of these quarterbacks is going to end up being the top quarterback. It could be any of them. And because they end up being the top quarterback, that means they could be the top pick in the draft, and therefore they move up the boards and they move up our dynasty rankings. These 3 quarterbacks, expect them to come into the league and be in our dynasty rankings anywhere between QBs 15 to 25, somewhere in that range. That's what I would expect. And let me share this tab for you. Now you can see it. There we go. Dante Moore, quarterback of Oregon. I've got at 5. Fernando Mendoza. I don't know how far I'm going to get here. I might only get to 12. You'll have to check out the Patreon to get more. All right. And 7, we've got Ty Simpson from Alabama. Ty Simpson I've watched a few times. He looked terrible against FSU in the opener, which they lost, much to my happiness as a Florida State fan. But FSU has been terrible since then. And here we go. We're going to go tier 4. All right, so there's your top quarterbacks. I have them all sitting there. And then we got number 8. All right. So next up, we are going to go to the wide receiver position because there is some more wide receivers. The running back class isn't as good as the wide receivers in this draft. We'll just put it that way. And so that's why we've got a tier of wide receivers. And I am going to go to the, let's see here. Here we go. All right. Denzel Boston. Many of you may remember his dad, David Boston, of the Arizona Cardinals, went to a couple of other teams after he got suspended for steroid use. The guy was just a beast, though, part of it because of the steroid use. But his son, I don't think's used them, at least yet, hopefully. And his dad, he's a spitting image, really, of his dad. He's not quite as big as his dad was, but he's a great deep ball threat, can go up and get it. He plays, well, I don't want to comp everybody George Pickens, but he's not as good of a separator as the others, so, but he's not terrible either. I want to say Drake London. There we go. Drake London is his high-end comp. Denzel Boston will likely be a first-round pick. Therefore, I am loving Denzel Boston. He could go to many teams. Again, with the NFL the way it is, really any wide receiver could go into any wide receiver room. I mean, teams need 4 or 5 wide receivers that play a lot of snaps every day on game day. So look at Egbuka. He went to Tampa, and everybody was like, "What? That didn't make sense." And I know Egbuka hasn't shined recently, the last 5-6 weeks, hasn't been awesome. But Mike Evans is coming back. He just opened practice window today, and look, Egbuka really shined when Mike Evans was there, and so we'll see if Egbuka can bounce back once Evans gets back in the building. But there you have it, number 8, Denzel Boston, out of the University of Washington. Next up, I'm going to go with that man that you saw pictured earlier. These guys are higher on him than I am, but that's Chris Brazzell out of the University of Tennessee. Now, Tennessee has gotten sort of a bad rap for wide receivers, and just as an offense in general for their play calling or playbook, if you want to say. Their playbook isn't that large. They let the talent rise to the top, and they throw it deep all day long. This dude is taking full advantage of it. 6'5", 200 pounds. He's got a wide range of outcomes here. Like he could just be MVS. He could be much better. But Jalen Hyatt was really good at the University of Tennessee, and then didn't do a whole lot after that. But again, you're 6'5", 200. I'm thinking Plaxico Burress. This guy is real thin. Okay, he's maybe 200 pounds, but he's all of that 6'5". I'm telling you, all of that 6'5". Plaxico Burress is who comes to mind for Chris Brazzell. If he's going to meet his ceiling, that's who I would comp him to. Next up, another wide receiver, and that's Chris Bell out of the University of Louisville. This is a smaller dude. Not quite Tez Johnson small, but 6'2", 220. It's more of a Chris Godwin type, okay? So he looks smaller because of his build, all right? Like, he's built almost, I don't want to say Deebo Samuel, because Deebo's probably got like 20 pounds on him. Chris Godwin's the one that I would comp Chris Bell to. All right, 4'4", 40. Obviously we'll see what he runs at the combine, but this is just a savvy ball player, a guy who's going to play in the NFL right away, the typical kind of guy that's available at the end of the first round in our dynasty drafts, who could boom or bust depending on the team that he gets drafted to, but he's NFL ready, okay? So that's the main thing. You want to know the name Chris Bell. So let's get these dudes onto the rankings, and we can keep moving along then. Here we go. There's the Patreon. There we go. All right, Denzel Boston. Love that dude. Just a playmaker. And man, any memories of his father, like, dude was just awesome. David Boston. He had a 1,600-yard season for Arizona one year. I think it was his second year in the league. And then, like I said, unfortunately, it came out that he had been using steroids. So it wasn't all that shocking if you saw him. He's one of those dudes who all of a sudden had like a tight end like build in a 6'4", 6'5" body, and just an absolute beast of a man. All right. Okay. Here we go. Now we're in Tier 5. And Tier 5, I'm going to start it off with the top tight end in the draft. That is Kenyon Sadiq. There we go. Oh, Kenyon Sadiq. I'll bring him up in a second here. Yeah, we're only going to get through this tier probably. There we go. All right. Here he is. Kenyon Sadiq, 6'3", 245. Basically a Harold Fannin type build, right? If you want to comp him to somebody from last year. He's Dante Moore's like favorite receiver, all right? So you can see it always helps when you got a good quarterback throwing to you, but in this case, I don't think either of them is making the other necessarily look better than what they actually are, all right? Like there is, when Mike Evans came out, he was catching balls from Johnny Manziel, and Manziel's draft profile went way up because of Mike Evans, all right? And so Kenyon Sadiq, the top tight end in the class, likely a first rounder. Again, he's one of those guys who should be out there on every down. He's only 6'3", but a solid 245, 4.55 40. So for a tight end, that is really solid. Overall rank on DraftBuzz is 23, so you can see he's probably going to go, as of now, he'd go back end of the first, but who knows who wants a tight end and how well he'll do in the combine and maybe move up higher. But this guy's rated as a top tight end right now, and I'm not going to argue with it. All right, so that's where we're putting him at number 11. Now we're keeping the same tiers. I am just going to, rather than bring everybody up for the sake of time, I am just going to type in the next few guys for you so you're familiar with their names and you can check them out on your own time. But we've got Kenyon Sadiq. Then we're going running backs, and we're going to start with, what is it, Javon Coleman? Out of Washington. Yeah, Jonah Coleman. And this is where some might have Emmett Johnson, but I'm going with Nick Singleton out of, yes, it's NIC, out of Penn State. This is a guy who could have come out last year. He's a real good receiver. He actually reminds me more of Travis Etienne. That's who I comp him to. And then we got Justice Haynes out of Michigan, transferred from Alabama. So he's been a big name guy his whole career in college. Bigger back there. And Katron Allen, running back for Penn State. Also, he's a very good receiver, a little more upright runner than Nick Singleton. Singleton's the between tackles guy. Katron Allen's like the third down guy, but Katron reminds me of Rashad White. That's who I would say. But I'm going to stop there. Okay, so and I will get this published and ready to be looked at later tonight for you. So there we have it. Jeremiah Love on the top, Jordan Tyson in Mekhi Lemon, and Carnell Tate in tier 2. Those are the exciting wide receivers for this upcoming draft. Then we have the top 3 quarterbacks right now. They're in tier 3. The next quarterbacks are, I'd be hard pressed to see any of the other quarterbacks going in round 1. So the next set of quarterbacks I have basically in the tier that goes around the end of round 2, because they're all going to be, none of them are going to come in and expected to start right away. Tier 4, Denzel Boston, Chris Brazzell, and Chris Bell out of Louisville. And then tier 5, the top tight end and a number of running backs. Oop, let me get the. Got to give them a position here, right? There we go. Okay, so there you have it. Those are the top 15 dudes. I'll make it top 25 with a few honorable mentions as well. But these are the main meat of who you're trading for if you're going after a first round pick or an early second. So that would be what I'd be looking at, so you know positionally and tiers wise what you're looking at. Some of the receivers, kind of similar to this past year where we had those receivers, you know, the guys who ended up in that Luther Burden, Jaden Higgins type area. That's where the next list of wide receivers come in. You've got Casey Concepcion out of Texas A&M, Amar Surratt out of Indiana, Jermaine Bernard out of Alabama, Antonio Williams out of Clemson, Nick Harbor, a speedy, just speed demon. He's a 4.3 guy out of South Carolina. So those are some of the names who could easily move themselves up the board and be like possibly in that late first, early second range. You've got like 6 dudes there that I could see doing it. The next guys I'm just going to mention: Evan Neusmeyer, John Mateer, Lenoris Sellers out of South Carolina. Those 3. Sellers may go back to school, but Neusmeyer and John Mateer probably coming out. Those are the guys who I see going at the end of the second round, the quarterbacks who may or may not get their opportunity, similar to like Tyler Shook this year, okay, with New Orleans. He ended up getting a start this year, but it's hard to say when that'll happen for those guys. But yeah, that's all I've got for you tonight. Thanks for joining me. And remember to never stop working.